Hi, Nick. I hope you're well. Thanks for taking the time to speak to me about your experience of using Vevox.
Yeah, pleasure.
Brilliant stuff. First of all, it'd be great just to hear a bit about yourself and your
Yeah.
role at Wanderer and what you do there.
Yeah. So the best way to describe it is I'm a people and culture consultant, I suppose, which sounds a bit dry, but in essence, I help businesses become great places to work. And one of the ways I do that is through a mix of consultancy, facilitation, and coaching. And so a lot of what I do revolves around running workshops for people, sometimes small groups of two or three, sometimes rooms of up to 60 people. But that's, yeah, a lot of what I do on a week to week basis involves being in front of people.
Brilliant. And so, when did you first hear about Vevox and come across the product?
Well, I'm familiar with Vevox because I've been working with the parent company Augur in my capacity as a consultant for some time already, but I hadn't really started using the tool until I had a think about whether there was an application for it in the type of work that I was doing. So I suppose that started about a year after I'd begun working with the business. So early summer 2022, I started to really think about how could I maybe apply Vevox as a tool in the work I was doing, as well as just partnering with Augur.
Brilliant. That's good to hear. And so, in the past, maybe before you'd came across Vevox, had you used any other sort of different polling solutions in the past, or used clickers or sort of a less sort of intuitive way of doing things, or was Vevox your first sort of foray into the audience engagement scene?
Well, I'd always been in the business of collecting perspectives and opinions and thoughts from the people I was engaging in workshops and interviews. However, until recently, I've been very low tech and I definitely hadn't used any polling solutions. My favorite weapon of choice, if you like, was the trusty flip chart and marker. And over the last decade, I can't even begin to think how many flip charts I've created from week upon week of different workshops, and the amount of blue tack I've got through sticking it up on walls. Sometimes whiteboards and whiteboard markers, but no technology to speak of. Very low tech.
Yeah. So I guess then introducing Vevox, why do you think it's helpful and why do you use it and what impact does it have when you do use it?
Yeah, so for me, gathering perspectives accurately of sometimes quite large numbers of people in a way that's time efficient and faithful to how they want their views represented is really important. So I've integrated it into my workshops so that when I ask a question and I want a room full of people, whether that's as individuals or in smaller groups, to contribute a response, I use Vevox to do that. So I might, for example, ask, what's great about working in this business? And previously, you'd have a room of 30 people all contributing different views. It was cumbersome to capture and collect that information, let alone collate it. And that's a different point entirely. So by using Vevox integrated with PowerPoint or sometimes on its own, that enables me to capture a very, very wide range of perspectives and thoughts very quickly. It's also great for making decisions on things. So maybe I'm facilitating a workshop where we need to make some choices and there's 10 options. And back in the day, the preferred mechanic for that was sticker voting, where everyone gets a set number of little colored dots and they go up onto a flip chart or a whiteboard and they stick it on. And using Vevox is just a great way to accelerate that process and smooth it out and make it much more effective. So, yeah, making decisions, capturing perspectives, the two ways I use it the most in my workshops at the moment.
Brilliant. And then which features within Vevox do you or your colleagues use most frequently and why do you use those features?
So I use polling and surveys, and polling for obviously for in the moment, for capturing people's thinking right there and then. And within that, normally text questions or word clouds, or sometimes ranking, getting people to rank multiple items. On surveys, similar, obviously minus the word cloud, but I find the survey features really good. If someone couldn't make a workshop and I want them to contribute to the same questions afterwards, I'll translate that into a survey and then send them a link for them to complete in their own time. And I find that's a really effective way of giving them as close to possible the same experience without them having to be there in the moment. And then in terms of other features, let's not rule out the actual collating of data, because the way I used to do it was to take photos of flip charts, or sometimes take the flip charts home with me in my bag, lay them out on the floor, and then type them into notes. And that is just not a time efficient way to do it. It's also not that enjoyable, as you can imagine. But
Yeah.
obviously, Vevox allows me to have everything exported into an Excel spreadsheet instantly, and I can then manipulate the data in whichever way I see fit. And that makes it really easy for me to, for example, see common themes, or to see how many times people have said similar things, or represent it in as many different ways as I need to. Exporting things like word clouds and bar charts as well is fantastic. There are lots of new features which I'm looking forward to deploying as I get more familiar with them as well, like, XY positions on charts and moving points over images as well, which I think will all enhance the user experience as well.
So moving on to employee engagement, how effective do you think Vevox is with engaging people? Do you think it allows people to have a freer sense of confidence to contribute to maybe more sensitive subject areas?
Yeah, I think it's hugely important because it enables people to contribute very quickly and easily and in confidence. And so the use of technology in workshops is almost always welcomed. Some of the anecdotal feedback, in fact, I've used it twice this week already in 2 different workshops I've run. And the type of feedback I get from people that lead me to this conclusion are things like, oh, this is good, isn't it? Oh, I like this technology. Oh, we never normally do stuff like this. And I think, when you're trying to warm people up and get them to contribute, it can be quite difficult when you just ask for opinions around the room. Not everyone is willing to expose their thinking in front of their peers. They can feel a bit shy, or it's not the right conditions for them to speak up. But providing an anonymous platform for people to share their views immediately is an absolute game changer for me. So yeah, it massively increases and improves the level of engagement in the work that I do in workshops and facilitation. And the anonymity that it gives you is wonderful as well. It creates that level of psychological safety for people. And once you've done a couple of questions, people get really used to it, and they start to be able to relax into it and contribute even in an even deeper way.
Yeah, that's really great to hear. And then just finally, Nick, in terms of feedback from those either you've been working with and used Vevox alongside, or participants within sessions you ran where Vevox has been implemented, have you had any feedback? You mentioned briefly there, some anecdotal feedback, but are people genuinely receptive of Vevox, and they're really pleased that it's being used, and they're happy that they can engage in that way, especially with the anonymity, as you mentioned just before?
Yeah, I have feedback almost after every time I use it in a workshop. Someone, at least one person, will say, "Oh, that's really good, isn't it?" Or ask for the name of it, or be curious to learn a bit more about it. And I think that's a really good indicator of how good the user experience is, not just for me, but for those people in the room with me as well. Also, everyone takes phones into meetings these days. So I spend my life telling people, phones away, please, laptops away. But in this occasion, it's quite refreshing when you're able to say, on this occasion, you can keep your phones on you. And one of the great things I like about it is you can actually force people to be using Vevox instead of getting them answering emails. So it's actually quite a good way to keep them off email, because they need to be engaging with the app instead. People often point that out as well as a benefit. So yeah, absolutely. Regularly get good feedback. Oh, that made the session more enjoyable, a bit more dynamic. And personally, my own feedback is it saves my writing arm heavily. It saves my hours and hours of typing up notes. And overall, I'd say it's pretty much revolutionized the way I conduct most of my workshops. Yeah, it's a
Brilliant.
really valuable tool.
Amazing to hear. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Nick, for your time and agreeing
Pleasure.
to speak to me, and just speak a bit more in depth about your Vevox experience. It's been really interesting. And yeah, thank you. Hope you're well, and speak soon.
Thanks, Sam. Been great to join you. Cheers.